The Mavs are headed to the NBA Finals, and what an absolute beatdown we just witnessed in Minnesota. The Mavs up by as many as 36 points. They hammer Minnesota today, 124 to 103.
The T-Wolves could not handle the physicality from the start. I mean, the tone was set from the start. I think there was a few times in this when I was like, oh, it's a 21-point game now. Oh. And there's just no magic, nothing that was lively coming from the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Pun intended. Luka came out and was like, this is a big game. I'm going to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And I felt like he sucked the life out of them in that first quarter. The way they finished that quarter. And Luka was hitting everything. Like, the fact that Lively's coming up and setting a screen for him at the logo, and Gobert is not even coming close to it. Luka's going to launch that three. He's knocking it down. He was already on fire. This guy finishes with 20 points. He hit contested threes. He hit mid-range shots.
Attacked.
He was great.
He did it all. And I mean, when you're making your outside shots and you're that guy, especially coming off of that last game and going, hey, your stars have to be stars. I mean, he was an effing star tonight. And it was starting the game off as a star that I think made it even more impactful, where you didn't have to go down by 15 and then find your way back into this one or find a way to win it at the end of the game. It was, we're going to the NBA Finals and we're going to start that journey right now. And Deuce, you talk about even the way that he was knocking down some of those threes, specifically that high one where Kyle Anderson was trying to fight around the screen and Rudy Gobert was in drop so far away. Like, that's that range. I'm not even used to, I feel like this series, it's not like Luka's been shooting the shit out of the ball out there, but in this one, he was feeling a different type of fire.
He ends up with 36 points in the clincher, along with 10 rebounds, 5 assists, a couple of steals. He was 6 of 10 from 3. Kyrie and him combined for 10 of 20 from downtown because Kyrie also had 36 points. Both those guys were absolute stars. And that's what I was talking about after game 4. So much talk about, man, Minnesota, what a response. Could they make this interesting? My perspective was pretty simple. Kyrie did not shoot the ball well. Luka didn't shoot the ball well, and Lively was out, and they lost by 5 points. You get Lively back in the fold tonight. That made a big difference. But it's up to your guys. And the fact of the matter is Luka and Kyrie are disgustingly talented offensive players, and everyone wants to come up with different ideas about how do you slow them down? Oh, do this, do that. I go, good luck, because I've seen teams make life more difficult.
Yeah.
And these players are so gifted and so smart. Their scoring ability and tough shot making, it's hard to really do anything to prevent it.
Yeah. I think in that alone can become deflating, but then you just go, like, not even from that mental standpoint of being deflated, go to a strategical standpoint of what you're supposed to do next, what type of defense you throw at them. And when they're on fire like that, there's nothing to stop them except not allowing them to have the basketball. And that's going to be so difficult to do. I mean, McDaniels ended with 5 fouls in this one. I know Rudy Gobert was fouling a lot in the beginning of the game. He ended up finishing with what? Oh, he only finished with 1 foul. So I'm sorry. It was Ant was also being really aggressive, obviously along the perimeter and everything as well. But I'm like, what do? You deny these humans the basketball the entire game? Like, that's close to impossible to do, especially in a series, right?
Yeah, and the other guy, you're thinking, McDaniels had 5 fouls. And
I
he
said
had
that,
3.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they blitz these guys.
Yeah.
And if you're blitzing Luka with Kyrie on the floor, that's cute. He's going to make you pay. And they took advantage of it. I mean, they found the guy in the short roll. There were a couple times early that, they throw it at him and Luka maybe threw a high pass to Lively. But they cleaned it up. And then they made the right play every single time. The ball was flowing.
Moving
like
vibing.
crazy. 15 of 30 from downtown helps things too. That goes a long way in helping you tonight. And then what they did defensively, where I felt like early on, they're blitzing Ant, but everyone's like recovering. And even if Ant got a step on somebody, the help defense was there, the recovery was there. This team looked locked in from the start of this game, like we are here to win, where Minnesota was like, hey, are you okay?
You talk about the defense for the Mavs and how everyone was recovering, moving on a string, all the things. The anchor, my defensive player of the game. I'm not even going to say of the series. The defensive player of the game. I mean, of the last couple of games, that second line of defense, Daniel Gafford making such an impact down there. His presence being felt in so many more ways than one, not just as a rim protector, but like his ability to make teams think twice about coming into him. Where when you think about Gobert and you think about some of these other big players in the league, you go, okay, how do we attack that? What do we do? And I feel like Gafford really showed up in a different way this season, especially after the trade, really showing up and showing what he can do if he has other good pieces around him.
Well, and getting Lively back was huge.
Yeah.
I mean, Lively tonight filled up the stat sheet. And then, of course, you had the thing with Naz Reid, where Naz Reid connects with him, and he looked like Lively looked like he was in tremendous pain.
I thought Deuce was going to jump through the TV for a second and like go after Naz Reid. Like, I understand why you were so mad because Lively, obviously what happened a few games
reckless.
ago, and then you saw him go down, like his neck just kind of flailed. It was really weird, and you were so mad at Naz Reid. It was reckless, but it was not intentional. Exactly that. It was reckless, and that is why the Mavs bench wanted a flagrant 2. The Wolves bench didn't want any flagrants, and so they settled on a flagrant 1.
Lively and Gafford tonight combined for 20 points, 17 rebounds, 4 blocks, 3 assists on 6 of 6 shooting, and they were 8 of 12 at the free throw line. What those guys have meant to the Dallas Mavericks, they've been so vital to everything they do as a vertical lob threat too, especially offensively. You think about Kyrie and Luka's ability to get inside the paint, and they're such great threats to finish at the rim. They've got so many different ways to finish with a floater, attacking left, right, and then the ability to have the vision to find open guys. Oh, you add in 2 legit lob threats, the defenses don't know what to do. I mean, how many times do you see Luka leave his feet for a floater, and at the last second after he sees the defense commit, he'll throw up a little higher and get it to someone like Gafford to finish the lob. Hell, Luka driving baseline tonight, Morgan, and they're playing him up tight, and there was a miscommunication between Anderson and Gobert. They saw Luka looking like he was going to get ready to go up. They retreat to the lob man. And so what does Luka do? Just take the mid-range shot. And if that's not there, he's going to pass it and make the right decision. When you have 2 guys like Kyrie and Luka that can make all the right decisions, coupled with shooting on the perimeter and legit lob threats, you're a tough team to stop.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think, too, when you look at the bigs and you want to compare them to even what the Mavs are able to do with their bigs on the offensive end compared to, let's just say, Rudy Gobert, not throwing Cat in there. I mean, he's obviously just an incredible dynamic big. But with Rudy Gobert, you just see so many different flaws, especially when he's given the ball somewhere he's uncomfortable. He's not going to make the right play. Where I feel like sometimes when Gafford or Lively would get the ball at the high post because a double would come on Luka and that's where they would end up getting it, they wouldn't try to scramble, travel, and make some play going down into the paint, make some move. They would take a second, stay poised, and make the right play. Pass it out, spray 3, if people collapse them, whatever. And then you saw on the other end with someone like Rudy Gobert where it felt like at times where he's just moving his body weird when he gets the ball and trying for some layups. In the beginning, he was being super aggressive. And I think that's another reason why when you do look at Minnesota in the beginning of the game, wasn't just Luka going off. It was also a little bit of that. It was like, wow, Rudy Gobert sure being aggressive on the offensive end and getting a lot. So the bigs just are different in that way too.
Those guys are a star in their role, right? Gobert tries to do a little too much offensively. Like, I feel like he tries to prove a point sometimes.
Well, I mean, but what are you supposed to do when you get the ball that like you want a big to be able to make a move and go, but I feel like there's so much discomfort there.
How many years has he played in the NBA?
Right.
He's not doing it. It's not starting. So, like, him being a threat, if he's not good at it, it's like he's a lob threat and a guy who tries to clean it up, if anything.
Right.
That's it. And if that's not there, I don't need to see Rudy Gobert putting the ball on the floor. Okay.
Sure.
I don't need you to be doing too much. You have to know what you're good at. Gobert tonight, think of all the money he makes. He had 9 points and 5 rebounds. Lively Gafford outplays Rudy Gobert. So that was a pretty significant thing for the Dallas Mavericks. And to think about where they were at this time last year, well, they were in the playoffs, but they were playing like Dwight Powell. They had Christian Wood. They had JaVale McGee on the team.
Yeah.
And what a makeover. What a shift for them. Even at the start of this year, they had Rashawn Holmes. And then another big like Grant Williams, obviously at the center spot. Dallas deserves so much credit for the pivot they made this year.
Yeah.
And I know we've talked about this before, but
multiple times.
You go back to late March, those 2 games in Sacramento, and but after those games, we did our podcast and we were like, man, this Mavs team looks like they can make a run here.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be to the NBA Finals, and to think that they beat the Clippers in the first round, they beat the number 1 seed OKC Thunder, and then to do what they did against Minnesota.
Yeah, they crushed them. I mean, they crushed, especially tonight on a game where you can like send them home and it's on their home floor. And I think not only did they crush them and do their job, but you feel a little disappointed in Minnesota in their ability to bring it tonight. And again, Cat 28 points. He had a good game. Ant had 28 points. And with his game, it was just a little different because I felt like the doubles that were being thrown at him, they were hounding him. And we've seen throughout the regular season and even throughout some of the postseason, like he's been able to break through, find a way to dominate through it. But it just felt like it was becoming too much. And I think he'll learn so much from this experience.
He definitely will, but it's also, I think, Minnesota's offensive flaws were highlighted at times. And I think one of the things you notice is like, okay, who else is going to create it out there? Like Cat, when he's on, he could hit from 3 and attack the basket. Okay, but who else can create? Gobert can't create. McDaniels, he's taken steps to become a better offensive player, but he's so inconsistent. One night he's giving you 24, the next he's not scoring, or he's giving you 5 points or 8 points, or he's picking up foul troubles. For them to take a step, they need like another guy that can go get them a bucket. Mike Conley can hit some corner threes, and every once in a while he'll come out and give you 18, but he's also 36 years old. And you go to the bench tonight, I'm going, I understand why you're playing Kyle Anderson for defense and stuff, but he's not spacing the floor. Gobert's not spacing the floor. All of a sudden we saw Jordan McLaughlin tonight. He's not spacing the floor. You're like, who's creating the offense? It all kind of falls on Ant in that situation.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, he's getting blitzed. He's being asked at times to go out there and defend Kyrie. That's what makes it tough. You know, Minnesota had a hell of a year.
And a hell of a roster, a hell of a team, like a lot of different things that they had that you see why they were as successful as they were. But yeah, when you do look at what you can tweak on the offensive end with the roster, I mean, there's definitely steps you can take.
Their defense was awesome during the regular season.
Absolutely.
Awesome at times during this playoff run. Who could forget that game 2 against Denver? We're like, what the hell did we just witness? But against those 2 guys in Dallas,
it's different.
We're seeing something that's like beyond special right now. What Luka's accomplishing, like
it's clicking.
We all know no one's denied Luka's talent over the years. It's all like, hey, when's he going to end up making that big run? He is making it now. And now he's in the NBA Finals and he's playing tremendous basketball.
That's the thing. It's not just because he is making it to the next step within the playoffs and now the NBA Finals. It's how he's doing it. It's how he's playing as a star. It's not, and even Kyrie said it after the game. He was like, it's not just me and Luka. It's like the rest of and it's true though, because how many times have we talked about this team creating these team wins? Your stars being stars.
Morgan, you pointed it out early in this game to me.
What?
You're like, Dante Exum and Josh Green are out there just doing the little things. They're tipping balls out. They're contesting well. Mm-hmm. It's like those things don't always show up on the box score, but getting
definitely don't.
Just good moments there. You know, what Derek Jones has done during the playoffs,
Oh
PJ
my gosh.
Washington. It's not just them either, but those two guys get so much thrown their way and they're able to respond.
Yeah, and I think that's it too. Like the way that they've been able to rely on others to really play their roles. Like no one's ever doing too much. I would say the only person that ever does, a lot when he comes in is like Jaden Hardy when he comes off the bench. But even that, I appreciate his confidence and his ability to be that way, to have that type of mentality when sometimes he's like, no, F this, I'm going to create, I'm going to do something else. But overall, yeah, you look at both these rosters and then you look at what the Mavs have been able to accomplish, and with some of these names and just some of these names playing some of their best basketball around one another. I mean, a lot of the league is just situational for players. When you plug in the right players around the right people and all the different things, it's like it can work. And even Kyrie, no drama this year. That alone, Luka, his game is taking a leap even with his maturity. It's the same thing that we talked about with Ant and Kat throughout this entire season for them. But yeah, Luka's on a different level now.
It's fun to watch, man. It's really fun to see that. And dude, we said it before the series. Minnesota was playing the best basketball of any team headed into the series.
Oh, yeah.
And Dallas showed up in a major way. Big time impressive stuff as the Mavs are now headed to the NBA Finals to take on the Boston Celtics. We get this comment a lot from people, and it's like, how do you guys deal with this? How do you handle Luka's success? Because you're in Sacramento.
Oh, yes.
So for those who don't know, in that 2018 NBA draft, the Sacramento Kings jumped up in the draft lottery, moved up to number 2. And there's so much talk. Are they going to draft Luka?
Yeah.
Luka's the guy. Oh, we hit it. Hopefully the Suns don't take him number 1. Well, if he's at number 2, you're taking him. And of course, there's that famous picture of Luka with Kings officials at dinner before the draft process, during the draft process. So now all these years later, like, how do you handle that mentally, Morgan Reagan?
At first it was hard. And then I enjoyed all of his immature years because it made me go, God, I'm so glad that that's not on the Kings. When he was bitching a lot and it wasn't leading to postseason success.
It's also your way of trying to make yourself feel
100%.
better.
But like you have to find a way to cope and to get past it. But there were times it was triggering because we had a player on the Sacramento Kings and his name was DeMarcus Cousins. And when you watch that night in and night out, DeMarcus never changed. The thing about Luka is that not only has he talked about changing, not only has he reflected, you're seeing him actually put in the work and changing.
And he wins.
And on top of that, he wins and his game only keeps getting better. So yeah, now it's become this thing for me where I just take a step back, and as an NBA fan, I take a step back and I go, okay, respect. And I can play the what if game with so many things in life. And with this specific thing, I'm not going to do it. And I'm just going to respect basketball and the game that I get to watch, even if he's not in a Kings jersey.
Yeah, I feel like I've moved on from it too.
Yeah.
I think anyone would be like, yeah, that was a big time blunder, a franchise altering mistake. I think we knew that relatively early on.
Yeah.
But for me, at some point, it's just like, it is what there's nothing you can do about now. It is what it is. And you think about over the years, like this is going to go down as like when Sam Bowie was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan. You don't think Blazers fans are going, God, wish we could have had Hakeem or Michael Jordan. You do have to move on at some point. And I love the game of basketball, so I'm going to enjoy great talent. And sure, would have been nice in Sacramento. Absolutely. But if I were to get hung up on all the Kings' misses over the years, could have had Kawhi Leonard, could have had Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson.
You wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
There's so many names. That one definitely stands out.
Yeah.
Probably more than any. But
here's why that one stands out, because some of those names end up being luck. Like
That's fair.
You know what I mean? Where Luka was generational talent sitting right there for you to choose.
And it wasn't like he was like hidden. This is not like, hey, you missed out on Jokic because your scouts didn't take him the second round. I mean, we were all watching EuroLeague basketball
Yes.
at the time, going, dude, oh my God, can't believe this teenager's doing this in a EuroLeague.
And like,
By the way, as we talk about it, I start to feel it a little bit. But
I know.
Then
Well, because if I go back to that night, I remember just being like trying to convince myself, like, okay, they know what they're doing. Then if they know something that we don't know, no.
Yeah. So I have definitely moved on, and I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah.
And the Mavs, man, they've taken some calculated risks. You think about it. I mean, they traded for Kyrie and they got hammered for it. They missed the playoffs last year, and now they're headed to the NBA Finals. Like, it seems like it's worked to perfection. Those two vibe.
Yeah.
Kyrie's locked in, playing amazing basketball. They've got the pieces surrounding them, and I mean, they're gonna have a chance here. I like you. If you're going to act like they don't have a chance against the Celtics, then you're sleeping on the Mavs again.
Yep.
When you've got Luka, who is, if he can finish off the Celtics, there's going to be a case he's been elevated to the best player in the league. I'm not a big fan of all those conversations because, let's be honest, it moves so often. The reality is he's one of the best players in the league. And then the guy next to him is looking like one of the best players in the league too.
Right. And that's I really hope we get some really good basketball out of these NBA finals, because these are two really good teams. One with more notable names than the other, but at the same time, you know,
who has more notable name? Are you talking about?
I would say, here's the only reason why I would say the Celtics with
Just from
Tatum,
that depth.
Brown, and then Porzingis.
Holiday, Derek White.
But I was even just giving three, right? Like, I was just going there, where I feel like you go to a rookie in Derek Lively who's coming off the bench, and then you think about the trade. At the trade deadline for PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, you're not going, those are big names, but what is so beautiful is how they complement the stars.
Yep.
And I think sometimes that gets overlooked, and it's not about them being some of the best players in the league. It's them being some of the best role players in this league.
So game 1 in Boston comes next week, June 6th. Some of the storylines we're going to get: Kyrie taking on the Celtics.
Oh yeah.
Dude, that's going to be nasty.
I don't like it.
Yeah. And then you got Porzingis against Dallas.
Yeah.
Remember? Everyone thought that Porzingis Luka thing, they were going to take off and win championships. It didn't work like everyone thought it would have. Luka, Tatum going for their first rings.
Yeah.
Grant Williams sitting at home pissed because he was on Boston last year, and then he was on Dallas to start this season and ended up in Charlotte.
Well,
What do you think Grant Williams is thinking right now? Grant Williams is going, I was in Boston competing, and I signed with Luka, Kyrie. Let's go.
Grant Williams is a really good guy, so I'm sure he has a very positive attitude.
He's
about
rooting
it.
for Boston, though, right? Like, no doubt he's rooting for Boston.
Yeah,
he was-
aren't you kind of screw Dallas?
Yeah.
Like, they pay me and then they get rid of me? Like, no.
I can't wait for that series. Real fast to Minnesota,
Yeah.
to put a bow on them.
Oh yeah.
I think there's going to be so much talk after this about, man, like, you got to trade this guy. Gobert, you don't. I kind of think they'll make some subtle tweaks, and they're kind of stuck too, just based on salary cap situation, right?
But it got them to the Western Conference Finals, you know, and I know that's not the end all be all. And in some ways, I think some teams were more desperate than them to get to the final. But like, yeah, people are going to be dramatic about it. But Deuce, you already said it. There needs to be roster tweaks for even their offense.
And what does Anthony Edwards do this offseason? From an endurance standpoint,
I'm excited.
like, how does he work on his craft and his game to come back, to get to another level? We saw flashes and we saw people wanted to push him to another level. And now a little bit of a reality check, but the guy still went this far. Great year for Minnesota. Can we also acknowledge that for a second?
Great
You had
year.
a couple of All-Stars and All-NBA talent. McDaniels.
6th man of the year.
McDaniels was all defensive team. So a lot of good stuff for the Minnesota T-Wolves. In the comments below, let us know predictions for Mavs-Celtics. Let us know what you thought of this Mavs victory tonight. And what should the Wolves do going forward? Let us know in the comments below. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe.
Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. They tell you what they know. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. Deuce and Mo. The podcast that you know.